Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Hope you're all doing really well. So I'm sure you guys can tell just from the title what today's makeup tutorial is all about. I have decided to do a couple of bridal looks. So at the moment it is like peak season for me when it comes to wedding season here in New Zealand. It is heat to crazy. I'm doing between 2 to 3 weddings every week alongside trials and all that sort of stuff. So it's in full swing for me and amongst planning our own wedding, which is just in about 6 weeks, which is so crazy to even think. We've been engaged for like 2.5 years, and to think that I will be a wife in 6 weeks is so, oh my god, it's bizarre. It's so exciting though, I cannot wait. So I thought it would be such a great opportunity to showcase 2 major like bridal looks that I get requested all the time from my brides. So this is one of them. This is like that classic chic Hollywood glam kind of look where the lip is the main statement, either to fit in theme with like flowers or bridesmaids dresses, or that's just the style and vibe that the bride is going with. And then the next tutorial that I'll do for you guys will be more of a smoky eye, a little bit more of a goldy kind of vibe, some nude lips, probably the most highly requested look from a bride. But this is definitely one of my favorites. It's just so like timeless and beautiful, and that's what I always tell my brides to really keep in mind when choosing a makeup look. So but anyways, let's stop talking and get into the tutorial. So before I apply my makeup, I always like to make sure that my skin, but also my client's skin, is very well nourished. I'm such a big advocate of making sure that the skin is very well prepped before we lay down any makeup. So I'm going to be applying some Fix Plus Spray by MAC. This is just going to help add a little bit of hydration and plumpness to the skin. So we'll just let that settle in. So for today's makeup look, we definitely are going for more of a matte finish with the foundation. So I like to, personally, because I am a little bit more of a dry skin type, I like to have a little bit of a luminosity to my skin underneath more of a matte foundation, just because when it's super matte, it definitely has a tendency to bring out my fine lines and pores. So today I'll be using the Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base Primer. Now this is super beautiful, very, very creamy. So I apply this everywhere that I'm going to apply my foundation. And I always like to make sure that the primer sits for a good couple of minutes. What I've noticed in the past, especially with like buttery, oilier kind of primers, is that if you put your foundation on too quickly, it will change the finish of it. So I'm a gold undertone, and what I've noticed is when I don't let my primer set and it's got a little bit of oil and more of a buttery finish to it, it generally turns my foundation a little bit pink. So do let your primer sit and settle down for a couple of minutes before applying your foundation. So moving on to foundations, I'm going to show you a couple of them that I really, really love. These are my personal favorites that I like to work with. We've got the Estee Lauder Doublewear. Now this has an SPF 10 in it. And if you don't want SPF in your foundation, I would highly recommend the Pro Longwear by MAC. This is waterproof. This one definitely would stay longer. Nothing moves Doublewear, I swear. The Pro Longwear is really, really good. It's just not as good as Doublewear, so you kind of just have to pick what you kind of prefer when it comes to SPF or no SPF. If you guys want more of a cheaper alternative, personally I've really been enjoying the CoverGirl True Blend Matte Foundation. This is, I think, like $17, and I swear it is so beautiful and it lasts a very, very long time. So that is a good foundation if you want something more affordable. All the brushes I'm going to be using today are from XOBEAUTY. Huge fan. Always recommend them to my clients because of the value of them and the high quality. So to apply the foundation, I'm going to just be using the paddle brush, which has a concealer tip on the end. And I've decided to go with Doublewear from Estee Lauder in the colour Sand. Hopefully it's the right colour. I'm a little bit in between at the moment, just due to the fact that I've got a little bit of fake tan still left on. I always find paddle brushes are really great to apply with if you want kind of like an instant coverage straight away. So we're just gonna apply from the inside and work our way on the outer jawline. I do try and be very mindful when it comes to coverage, depending on the atmosphere, and also it does come down to the client as well. But a lot of the time, if you're, you know, I like to think of it as if you're going to be outside majority of the day, just be very aware that outside lighting is by far the most exposing. So you don't want to have like a full thick face of makeup, because you really want people to be looking at you, not your makeup. That's always how I like to see it anyways. So I like to do a good medium, and then I feel like it translates really well for the day into the night. And do take into consideration, if you've had a tan, back here will most likely still be quite light because you don't generally get tanned there, and if you have your hair up you'll be quite white through here and people will be able to see it. So I always like to take a little bit of my foundation up behind there as well. So now I'm going to conceal underneath my eyes, and I've really been enjoying the 24-Hour Studio Fix Concealer by MAC. This is in the colour NC25. I like it because it's quite lightweight but it does give you quite a nice desired coverage at the same time. I don't like using anything too thick on a wedding day, especially if it's like, you know, quite hot. It doesn't take much for creasing, and just the more you put on, the more inclined the concealer is to crease. So I'm going to use this on my under eyes. If you guys want more of a cheaper alternative, I would highly recommend the Lasting Perfection Concealer by Collection. It's like $12. It is still one of my absolute favorite affordable concealers. So I'm just going to place this underneath my eyes and then a little bit on my lids just to prep, and then we're going to blend that in with a beauty blender. So I've allowed my concealer to sit on the surface of my skin for a good 1 to 2 minutes. I just like to make sure that it's quite like dry before I try and set it, because I've tried to set it before when it hasn't dried enough and it just turns to shit. So just make sure it sits on the surface for a couple of minutes. To set everything underneath my eyes, I'm going to be using my wet beauty blender and the Veil translucent powder from HOURGLASS. It's by far one of my favorites at the moment, and then I'll set the rest of my foundation with it as well.
Do you know what I just did?
What?
I made that suit look so fucking sexy, yeah.
Oh! Did you take photos? Damn it! And because this is more of a like kind of old Hollywood classic look, I like to go quite matte. So before I finish the rest of my base, I'm just going to whip on my brows. I'm going to use some of my favorite products. So we've got the Gimme Brow by Benefit. We have got their Ready Set Brow, which is like a clear mascara, and using my HD Brow by BH Cosmetics. So now that my eyes are done, I'm going to move on. So now that my brows are done, I'm going to move on to my eyes. I'm going to be working with the Spice of Life palette from ZOEVA. It's just a very beautiful classic palette. Now, it is going to be quite a simplistic eye because the lips are the main feature, and what I generally do is just pick one or the other. I don't do both because you just don't want eyes and lips trying to compete for the attention. It can get a little bit overwhelming. So we're just going to do a very soft contour into the eyes, do a very old classic Hollywood styled look with some big beautiful flirty lashes. So yeah, I'm going to be working with the blender brush by XOBEAUTY, and I'm going to be taking this color called Of the Favor, and it's this really nice warm medium brown, and this is just going to go into the eye socket and start carving out that area. Now I'm just really focusing the depth on the outer corner of the eye and just taking it outwards. What I always like to do is envision as if my lower lash line was to continue outwards. That's where I kind of cut off my eyeshadow, and just blending back and forth, making sure it's very seamlessly blended. I don't know if you can see that very well, but there's barely any eyeshadow on that. That's as much as I'm going to be working with, and how much I generally start working with, because you know, less is more. You can always add it, and you're always safer with a little less product in case anything goes amiss. So just take your time. So going back to the palette, I'm going to be using this really beautiful just matte white vanilla shade. This is called A Nuisance, and then I'm going to be using a eyeshadow brush from XOBEAUTY just to apply it. You can already see where I've left the areas of where I'm going to apply it, and we're just going to press that on. Okay, I'm I'm basically just going to leave it like this for now. I'm going to whip on a liquid liner. I'm going to be using the Pretty Easy by Clinique, and we're going to go with quite a semi-thick liner for this, just to make the eyes really pop. So to finish my eyes, I'm going to pop on some lashes shortly, but I'm going to move on to the rest of my base. So I'm going to be using this contouring palette from MAC, and I'm going to be working with this shade here just to do some subtle contouring. So because I haven't got any kind of natural colouring to my skin at the moment, because I've neutralised it after using my foundation, I'm just going to bronze the kind of like higher points of my cheekbones and my temple, and I'm going to be using this stippling brush from XOBEAUTY to do it. For my blush, I'm going to be using this beautiful kind of slightly plummier shade from the BALM, and this is the Instain, and I'm just going to pop it mainly on the apples of my cheeks, just slightly moving upwards to elongate my face. Again, less is more with your blush, so you don't want to put a heap on. Even I did just then. But it's really important just to add that colour back into the face. Now we're going to do a soft amount of highlighting, so I'm going to be using Soft and Gentle from MAC. I just really like this because it is such a finely granulated highlighter. I am using a ZOEVA brush though to apply this, and I'm just putting it on the highest points of the cheekbones, not too close to any fine lines because it will accentuate them if fine lines happen to be a little bit more of an issue for you, and a little bit on Cupid's bow, but not a heap. So I'm also going to take a smaller detail brush from XOBEAUTY and just place a little bit on the inner corners of my tear ducts just to brighten up that area. So basically all my base is done. Before I lay down my lashes and my lipstick, I'm just going to actually softly set my makeup, but kind of like diffuse it at the same time. This is like a 3-in-1 Prime Plus hydrating spray from Bobbi Brown. So it's not like, I don't really understand how something can be a 3-in-1. I definitely use this more like to prime my skin with, and then to diffuse any of my powders. And what I mean by diffusing, I mean just like softly wet them so that you don't look as powdery on the surface of your skin. You look a little bit more softer and natural. Your makeup looks a lot softer and silkier. Generally setting sprays have like alcohol in them just to help tighten up your pores so you don't deplete as much oil throughout the day, and that way resulting in your makeup to slide off. So I don't use this per se as like a setting spray. I probably use like Urban Decay De-Slick or something like that, because I know it's got a little bit of alcohol in it. So this is just going to help diffuse the powder so I don't look as powdery. Now I do that before I lay down my lashes, because I just don't like to disrupt my eyelash glue. Any kind of moisture can easily soften and loosen the glue, so that's why I do it before. So the lashes that I've decided to use today are from Glamour by MANICARE. These are the Eevee, and I really like them for just that little bit more of a romantic feel. So they're shorter at the front and then they wisp out on the outer corner. Generally, if it is a bride, I will always use individual lashes, just due to the fact that if you do happen to cry on your wedding day, it doesn't take much for the inner corner to well part, get to the glue, soften the glue, and then you get the inner corner of your lash pinging up. That's why I love to use individuals, because if you lose one, you're not going to lose them all. They're a lot more comfortable for people who aren't used to wearing lashes as well. But for today, we are going to use a full strip band. Because waterproof mascara is so essential on days like this, I'm actually using Lash Power by Clinique. This is a waterproof mascara, but it removes with warm water. So it's what it does, it's kind of like a silicone base. It wraps itself around the lash, and it's a lot more easier to remove than waterproof, but it still won't, you know, come off if you do cry. You just have to have warm water on it for a good 5 to 10 seconds and then the formulation just peels off. It's such a nice formulation. So I'm just going to chuck it very gently through my lashes just to blend them and on that bottom lash line. I don't put a lot underneath the bottom lash line either, just the tiniest bit of shaping with some shadow because I just want to keep it quite top heavy and clean. If you ever do get a little bit of mascara underneath here like I have, I always let it just set and dry. It's so much easier to remove with a cotton tip than trying to remove it when it's wet, and that way, you know, it doesn't take much for it to smudge everywhere. Right, pretty much everything is done. We're just going to chuck on our lipstick. I'm going to be working with Maybelline. This is their Voyage number 50 matte ink. I really like it because it's in between a burgundy and a red, and burgundy is generally the color that I get requested the most from brides because a lot of them go with like a burgundy theme within the flowers, within the dresses, whatnot. And sometimes I will just mix between a purple and a red depending on the shade. It's always really nice when my brides bring in like a little sample just so that I can make sure I get it just right. So I'm just going to go with this one because I feel like it's kind of just an all-rounder really. And the reason why I'm going matte is because, of course, if it is your wedding day and you want to kiss at the altar, you're just better to go with matte because you're not going to get that transfer onto your partner. I had a couple of my friends who insisted on having like cream lipsticks, and that's fine, but it's smeared everywhere and then we had to do some touch-ups. So I always recommend just going matte, easier to maintain if you want to go with more of a bottle lip. So there you go guys, there is today's makeup look. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any major questions, feel free to just drop a comment down in the comment section. Everything you'll need to know I'll just chuck in the description box. I'm really bad at explaining stuff, so I'm sure I've missed out plenty of things. If you've got questions as to why I've done something like this rather than this, just ask away because I know I wouldn't have probably covered much. I try and keep it as like minimal in a video so you guys don't get bored. If you guys have enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. If you'd love to be a part of my channel, feel free to subscribe. And yeah, anyways guys, I hope you're looking forward to next week's video, which will be the other style of bridal makeup. Something that I'll probably end up doing very similar to myself on my wedding day as I'm doing my own makeup. But yeah, have a lovely day guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!